Welcome to our first ever episode of Speakeasy, where we help you feel calm and confident about public speaking. I'm Kate Gilbert.
And I'm Mike Sargent, and we're coming together to share some of our knowledge with you about public speaking. And we'd also love to see you at one of our workshops. And if you'd like the details, they are in the comments section below. So let's get things going. And today we're going to talk about nerves and public speaking. Now, people are more afraid of public speaking than almost anything else we hear.
Well, I hear that they're more afraid of public speaking than actual death,
right?
Which is pretty high on the list,
extreme.
I think,
I
of
wouldn't
fears.
go that far. Yeah.
And it's something that is so common. I think the first thing to acknowledge is because so many people feel it, it's okay. It's a natural response to something that could be perceived as quite a stressful situation. I remember when I started my acting career, I had this radio interview and there were a few of us speaking about our characters. And then it came to me and they asked me a question about my character and I completely froze. I said nothing. And this is total radio silence. And after that experience, I kind of realized that I had a bit of a problem with my confidence in speaking. And so I went on a journey of how do we learn to be confident? What's happening in the first place? And one of the things that I learned was that it kind of predates to Neanderthal times when we used to live in packs and hunt in tribes. And if we were alone, we were very much in danger of being picked off by a saber-toothed tiger or a lion hiding in the bushes. And this would cause what we call a flight or fight response. And what happens in this is that all the energy starts to run away from our higher thinking, our mind, which we obviously need when we're doing public speaking, and into our muscles. So that's why the heart starts pumping, because the blood is being pumped around to get more oxygen into the muscles so that we can run away faster. So when we are standing on stage, our brain clicks back into that moment of being on our own, faced by a crowd of what we may perceive as hungry dogs out to get us. And that's why this fear, this fight or flight response kicks in and we can start having all these physical sensations. And I think the first thing to do is to recognize that is a very human experience. It's most likely going to happen. It still happens for me. And it's how we deal with it. So if we embrace it, we're in a good place. If we resist it and fight it, it's going to get worse. It is going to sabotage our whole speaking opportunity.
So we need to welcome these things as entirely natural things. In fact, it's what our body needs. It's the fuel that's going to give us the energy for the performance we have to give. And in fact, these feelings that are surging through us, the raised heartbeat, the temperature going up, the sweating, these are exactly the same symptoms we feel when we get excited about something.
Exactly, Mike. So, psychologically, we could think, do you know what? Why don't we just turn this into excitement and use this energy? It's great. We don't want to be kind of feeling like we're sitting on our sofa and have that energy when we're speaking in front of people. We want to have a slightly more elevated energy. So our bodies are giving us that. So the moment we accept it and go with it, the more we're going to start to calm down on stage. If we start putting our focus onto it as a negative, it's just going to increase it and it's going to get worse and it's going to get harder.
So we mustn't fight these things hard. We must accept them and maybe use them as well. Use the nerves, use the excitement to allow us to perform in the way that we can do.
Absolutely. And what's your take on it, Mike? What tips have you got for overcoming those nerves that are most likely going to come up for most people?
Well, whenever I feel nervous, and I still get nervous ahead of big speeches or presentations or even client meetings, I try to remember that it's not really about me. It's about what I can give to this audience. So if I'm thinking the whole time, am I good enough? Am I an excellent speaker? Am I an imposter? Do I deserve to be here? Am I worthy? Those are probably the wrong thoughts to be going through your mind ahead of a speech or a presentation. Instead, we try to shift the focus onto what can we give this audience today? And so that's the message, that's the idea that you want to land. And if you're giving something to your audience that's truly valuable, you're not just having the spotlight on you and feeling like it's all down to you as an individual to perform. You're putting the focus onto the idea. And in an ideal world, this idea is so valuable that when you hand it to the audience, you're giving them something truly special. You might be giving them something absolutely life-changing. And if you can do that, and if you can say, actually, this message, this idea that I want to impart is way more important than I am, then that should give you a little bit more confidence as you go into the room, particularly, and this is at its best, when you've personally benefited from that idea. So you're a kind of living example of it. And then that gives you the confidence, actually, this thing is valuable, whatever it is that you're trying to give to this audience today. So it's a generous mindset. It's a giving mindset rather than I'm in the spotlight.
Absolutely. So in a way, you're putting the spotlight on the audience.
That's right.
Rather than on yourself.
That's exactly right. So it's on the audience and what you can give to them. And once you do that, you're starting to see the audience as people, as individuals. And maybe they're feeling nervous today. Maybe they're feeling a bit low. Maybe they're feeling challenged in their own lives in different ways. So the more we can think, okay, these are just people out there. They're people like me, and maybe I can help them in some way. And I'm starting to see them as human beings rather than them as an anonymous audience which is out to get me. And in fact, most audiences are not out to get a speaker. When we sit and watch a speaker or a presenter, we don't think, oh, I really hope this person fails. I really hope they deliver a terrible speech and it all goes wrong. No, we look at someone on stage and we think, I want this person to do well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not only do we want them to do well, but we've also come there to learn something from them. So our job as a speaker is to, as you say, give it as a gift. This is what you've come for. Here it is. I'm going to say it in the best way that I can so that it lands with you in a really good way and people leave feeling like they've gone home with something that they came for.
Yeah. And it's okay not to be perfect. Let go of perfection and just try to do your best and try to give this audience some kind of value. And you're also a big believer in visualization and trying to see things. What do we mean by that?
I'm a huge believer in visualization. It takes me back to an acting class I had in my early days, in my early careers of acting. And we were all standing around a bin and we had a scrunched up piece of paper and we were all asked to throw the paper into the bin. So everybody threw their paper and by the end of it, there was the room was scattered with pieces of paper on the floor. And then the teacher said, okay, everyone stop, close your eyes, visualize throwing the paper and it going into the bin. And I was like, okay, so we did it. And then we all opened our eyes and we all threw our paper and only 2 people didn't make the bin.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, there is something in this. There is definitely something in visualization. And we have neural pathways in our brain. So depending on usually past experiences with public speaking, the neural pathways are going to take us down the same route. So when we visualize, our imaginations actually don't understand they can't tell the difference between what's really happening and our imagination. So we kind of visualize it. So if you can visualize the experience going well, if you can visualize the event going well, you're more likely to step into that on the day. And we visualize all the time. You know, if someone said to you, Mike, let's go out for dinner tonight, you're probably already going to start visualizing what you're going to wear, what kind of restaurant you're going to go, what kind of mood you're going to go in. And this is really important. And I remember once I was getting ready for a talk. I was preparing. It was about 2 weeks before, and it wasn't going very well. And I stopped and I was like, my body was really tense. And I thought, what is going on? And I suddenly realized I was visualizing the event. I was visualizing it going really badly. I was visualizing people getting bored. I was visualizing people saying, who are you to talk about this subject? And so all of this was stopping me, even in the planning. So then I stopped and I visualized it going really well. I visualized people coming up to me afterwards and saying, oh my God, that was so useful. Thank you so much. And then I started to write the talk and it just flowed. It flowed out of me with absolute ease. When I went to it, because I'd already visualized it going well, I kind of imprinted it. I went with really good energy. I went with excited energy. I was still nervous, but I was like, this is, I feel happy about this. It's going to go well. I'm going to enjoy it. And I got 3 new clients from it. I had people coming up to me afterwards saying they really enjoyed it. They got loads out of it. So do not negate the power of visualization. I know some people see it as a bit of a hippie thing, or it used to be. But I think neuroscience is now showing that it can really make a difference.
And this is mainstream now in the sporting world. When we look at athletes or top players, they visualize the key moments. They visualize taking the penalty before they're out there in front of 60,000 people. They visualize playing the match point at Wimbledon. They've done it before. So they've created the movie in their mind. And this is what I try to encourage those I'm working with to do. So find an experience when a speech went really well. Find an experience when a presentation went brilliantly. And that's the movie you're trying to go back to. That's the visualization, you up on stage, and almost see yourself in the third person. Look at yourself up there in your mind's eye and think, okay, that's how I look when I'm confident. That's how I sound where I'm in the zone. That's how I deliver at my very best. And you're trying to access that memory and play that movie again when you get back onto the stage.
Absolutely. It's so powerful. I mean, I don't know about you, but I do. This is pretty much the first thing I do with my clients. And they come to me and they tell me all their troubles about public speaking, all the times it's gone so badly. And then we do a visualization and they're like, oh my God, I feel good now. I'm like, that's all you need. That's the biggest thing.
That reassuring feeling of having done it before, even in your imagination.
Yeah.
Even in your imagination.
I think if we can see it, we can do it. I'm a firm believer in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you do, Mike? What do you do to prepare?
Well, preparation is a really important question when it comes to public speaking. And we know that the best public speakers of all time have been perfectionists. We know they've prepared thoroughly for their speeches. But we also know that some of the best speeches in history have been improvised in the moment, whether that's Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream or many other speeches where they weren't written out in advance. They weren't rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. They just came in the moment. So we need to get the balance right between preparation and spontaneity. So I prefer to use the word preparation rather than rehearsal. Rehearsal for me is what actors do. You know, they have their lines, they have their script, and they rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. They rehearse every intonation. They rehearse every gesture, every movement. I think for speakers, because they don't have the acting skill often, and also they don't have the time to rehearse as you would for a play in the theatre, they need to prepare. And by that, I mean prepare the key message of the speech. Maybe prepare the structure. Prepare a couple of the stories that you want to deliver. Visualize how you see yourself showing up on stage. But, you know, the structure can set you free, but an actual script can be a bit of a cage for a speaker. So we want to release them, allow them to get into that nice state of flow where they're spontaneous, where they can add in little anecdotes in the moment, where they can react to what's going on in the room or something an audience member says or someone else on a panel, for instance. So it's very, very important they are very present in that moment. So preparation is critical. If you don't prepare, prepare to fail, as the saying goes. However, do not rehearse and rehearse and rehearse every second of what you're going to do. I advise my clients against trying to memorize a speech or getting too close to some exact form of words or performance that they have in their mind. So allow yourself the spirit of flow within that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I have clients come to me and they say, I'm very robotic. And then I say, well, how do you prepare? What do you do? So, I write a script and then I learn it. I spend weeks learning it and then I reproduce it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the first place where you're going wrong because it won't sound natural. And that's when you can get into a very robotic state. And also you're also risking losing your place and then not knowing where you are, you know, all those kind of things. So yeah, absolutely agree with you, kind of finding the message and being clear on that. And then having a connection with the audience. I think that's really important.
Yeah. What are the kind of limiting beliefs that you encounter, Kate? And how do we get over some of those? First of all, what do we mean by limiting beliefs when it comes to speaking?
Yeah, limiting beliefs. And we all have them. We have them in so many different areas of our lives. You know, the things that say, probably the biggest one is I'm not good enough. Who am I to stand on a stage? What have I got to say? You know, I'm boring. All of these kind of limiting beliefs can come up when I do workshops with people. We have a massive list of limiting beliefs. I mean, they're incredible. They're really interesting, some of them. The thing about limiting beliefs is they're called limiting because they will sabotage you. If you go onto stage and you're thinking, oh, the boss is here and they're going to think that I'm not good at this, you're most likely going to fulfill that prophecy. You're not going to do it as well. So we need to kind of identify what are our limiting beliefs, and then how do we move those out of the way and turn them into more empowering thoughts? Because as I said before with the visualization, the more we're in a positive state of mind, the more the audience are going to enjoy what we've got to say, the easier the words are going to flow from us, and we're going to have a much better experience. But limiting beliefs can come from many places. And when I work with people, we often do a bit of detective work. We sometimes have to travel right back to childhood and find out, where has this come from? For me, I was in a very busy house. There were 4 kids. One of my siblings, I won't give away who it was, but was very demanding of attention and was a very difficult child. So for me, my default was like, be quiet, don't cause any trouble. And that's great, but that's a story I took on at the time. And when I came to speaking later in my life, and particularly in my 20s, when I found it really hard, that limiting belief of like, be quiet, don't make a fuss, don't be seen, don't, just go under the radar, was not working when it came to being in the spotlight. So often we do have to travel back and just see what's happened in the past. What stories have we created about ourselves that are then going to act as limiting beliefs and sabotage us when it comes to being in front of people or in the spotlight. And I think the way to get around that is to find an empowering belief. So it is to kind of be realistic. What have I done? Why am I standing here? What have I done in my career, in my life? What challenges have I overcome to now be the person to be able to stand up here and do this? And just really get very honest and very clear on why you are the person to stand up there, and hold on to those empowering thoughts and breathe them in, so that those are the ones that you take with you to stage.
Because this is the problem that so many of the people I've worked with have. There's something in their mind or in their being or in their story that's stopping them. Yeah. And they think, I don't really have anything valuable to share with this audience. I'm not very interesting. I'm not a good public speaker. The audience are generally not interested in what I have to say. All these sorts of things come at us, particularly in a high-pressure moment like public speaking, which tends to reveal a lot that's beneath the surface most of the time.
Yeah.
And this kind of bubbles to the surface ahead of any public speaking engagement. And we've got to try to help people to lock onto those empowering thoughts. But what if you've got the empowering thoughts, you've developed it, and then still in the back of your mind there's that kind of voice in the ear saying, no, it's not you, this is not your time, you're not right for this. Is there anything you can do to block out that voice when you're on stage or when you're preparing to speak?
I think you've got to focus on the fact that you have a task. You have a task to complete. Someone's asked you to do this. Somebody believes in you that you can do it. You do have the knowledge, or you wouldn't be asked. And I think that's a really good thing to hold on to as well. It's like, this is my time, actually. And we're never fully prepared, because in reality, we haven't done this before. I haven't done what I'm going to say in the next 2 minutes. I haven't done that before.
You haven't done that before, but maybe you do have a routine that you go through ahead of any speech or presentation to get you set, to get you into the best possible zone. So with that familiarity of preparation, whether that's a physical preparation, vocal preparation, going through your notes, whatever it is, you're in the best possible state to overcome those limiting beliefs.
Absolutely. So there's the mindset that we're talking about today. How do we get over the nerves? Look at the mindset, look at what's going on. Look at the thoughts, identify them. And then absolutely we can, as an actor, before you go on stage, you warm up. You warm up for at least half an hour, your body, your voice, and get yourself into a really good positive state. And you can do that for a presentation as well. Even if you don't have a room, you can go into the bathroom, lock yourself in, do a few star jumps.
Do your power poses with your hands on your hips. Get yourself physically ready. And I think this brings us nicely onto the last topic that we want to talk about today, which is breathing. Because I think this is very limited to how we warm up and how we get ready to go on stage. Breathing and speaking, they're really important and they're interlinked. And if we forget to breathe, we're not very good at speaking either. So we get strong links between breathing and our emotional state. We know that. If we slow down and deepen our breathing, we can also lower our heart rate, and we can deepen our voice and get more resonance to our voice. So that's one potential advantage. When we breathe, we calm our nerves down typically. And if we forget to breathe, and I've had this, this one occasion with a CEO that springs to mind where he was on stage, and every sentence, his breath would get higher in the chest because he was forgetting to breathe. And then he'd run out of air altogether. And we often hear this in speakers, that it's almost like their voice is going up and up and up into their chest and into their neck, and then they're sounding very strangled. And of course, what we want is just breathe. So ahead of going on stage, you can do breathing techniques and breathing warm-ups. Of course, just a deep in and out breath is very good. We also have an in-breath, sharp in-breath, and then an extra in, and then release, which is also good for just breathing out the stress and breathing in the calm.
Yeah.
People in stressful situations do box breathing as well, where they breathe in, hold, and breathe out. Hold, and breathe in, hold. And through that, after a few rounds of that, you start to feel an amazing sense of calm. So that would be what I would encourage people to do before going on stage. Yeah. And even a little bit on stage. What are your experiences of breathing and how it relates to performance?
Oh my goodness. I mean, also, I think we were talking at the beginning about the fight or flight response, and the fact that the heart will start pumping like crazy to get oxygen around the body. And the breathing actually miraculously will slow down your heartbeat. So it has such a brilliant physiological response for us. I've done a lot of vocal training in my life as an actor, and I do teach that to, groups of people when I'm training or clients. And I think it really helps to take in a lot of air rather than a little bit of air, because then we run out of air and we can get we can start to sound quite croaky if we're not really taking in the air. So, a lot of times it's like, let's take a nice deep breath in, use the diaphragm to support, and it just, your message will come across a lot clearer and a lot louder in a way. But I do remember one time I was doing a project in schools. I was doing mindfulness and creativity. I was getting that into schools on a kind of 2-day off timetable thing. I'd organized the whole thing. I got funding. And suddenly someone went, oh, the teachers have no idea it's happening tomorrow. They really don't get what's going on. Can you just go and talk to them all? There's like 300 people in there. Off you go. I was like, yes, of course. So I went in there, got a microphone shoved in my face. I was also the public speaking teacher in the school at the time. So in my head, everyone was looking at me to see, oh, she's supposed to be so good at this. How's she going to be herself as a speaker? And it started to make me feel really anxious. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking, oh God, the spotlight's really on me. Whereas really all I had to do was communicate the message to the teachers so that they were clear on what was going to happen the next day. So I started off and I got faster and faster and faster. And then I realized I had to stop because I'd run out of air.
Yeah.
Like literally had no breath left in me to make a sound. So and because of that, I was also like having to get air quickly. So I literally took a step back. I said, I'm so sorry, just a moment. I took a step back. I was just like, just breathe. And I just took that moment. Then it calmed me. I came back and I carried on and I just delivered the information that I needed to do. And I think that's a much better thing to do than to try to keep going, to keep rushing through, to get to the end and everybody just go, oh my God, what did she say? You know?
Exactly. And so I would encourage people to, when they walk onto the platform or step up in front of the audience, to take a breath at that point.
Yeah.
And then also remember, there's a wonderful thing that links breathing to the power of a pause. Mm-hmm. We know a pause is effective in public speaking. A pause allows a speaker to give emphasis. and sound more powerful and convincing. But in that pause, you can also take a nice breath. So during your speech, have those pauses. Take those moments to breathe. Allow yourself to reconnect and become present once more. And if you do that, you'll find the added benefit of seeming more powerful and with luck feeling more composed. And once you've taken a few deep breaths, you get over the hump of nerves, as I often call it, which typically at the beginning of a speech, and then you settle into it and you find that nice state of flow where you feel composed and confident and very much present in the moment.
I think, the top tip there is slow down.
Slow down.
So take that breath, that you're going to be feeling nervous and the nerves will go, but take your time.
Exactly. Take your time. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the episode. So thank you very much.
Thank you
for listening and watching. And if you want to join one of our workshops, again, the details are in the comments section below, and we'd love to see you there. Thanks very much.
Thanks.